to Necross. Edgar Thornwood, now completely unrecognizable, had spent months buried in ancient texts, studying the myths surrounding Necross, the god of the undead. His skeletal face, a grotesque mask of decaying and regenerating tissue, bore a perpetual grimace. Edgar was no longer a man. He had become something new, something terrifying, a creature in a constant state of death and rebirth. His face, covered in new tissue, was quickly consumed by an enhanced version of the Black Death, a testament to his horrific transformation. His powers of necromancy had grown exponentially, merging his scientific knowledge with the cursed arts he had mastered. Edgar's skeletal frame was wrapped in tattered robes, and his eyes glowed with an unholy light. He was driven by a singular purpose: to find and destroy Necross, the dark god who had manipulated his fate and taken everything from him. Today, a rare smile played on his decayed lips. He had finally discovered the very thing he had been searching for: a way to confront Necross. His research had led him to the ancient ruins of what was once a shrine to the god of the undead, a place rumored to possess the power to open a gateway to Necross's realm. Edgar prepared for his journey to this forbidden site. The ruins abandoned for centuries. He knew the journey would be perilous, but his determination was unwavering. He gathered his monstrous creations, grotesque beings of flesh and bone, animated by his dark powers, and set out to cross the seas to reach his destination, a small, desolate island in the Mediterranean Sea. Stealing a boat from a secluded harbour, Edgar and his creatures boarded, their presence sending shivers through the small coastal town. The voyage was eerie, the sea seeming to part before them as if fearing the abominations on board. Edgar stood at the helm, his skeletal hands gripping the wheel, his eyes fixed on the horizon. His creations moved silently, their twisted forms a testament to his mastery of necromancy. The journey was long and arduous, the boat cutting through the waves under a sky perpetually shrouded in clouds. Edgar's mind was focused, replaying the steps he would take to confront Necross. He had learned of the rituals and incantations required to open the gateway, each one etched into his memory with painstaking precision. Days turned into nights, and finally, the island appeared on the horizon. It was a barren, rocky place, its shores lined with jagged cliffs and dark, foreboding forests. Edgar felt a surge of anticipation as they approached, the air growing colder, the sky darker. As the boat touched the shore, Edgar stepped onto the island, his creations following in eerie silence. The ground beneath his feet felt charged with dark energy, the very essence of the place, resonating with the power of Necross. Edgar looked around, his skeletal face set in grim determination. "Necross," he whispered to the wind, "your reign of terror is about to end." He knew that the ruins lay somewhere within the dark forest that loomed before him. Gathering his strength and commanding his creatures to follow, Edgar Thornwood set out to find the ancient shrine, ready to confront the god of the undead and exact his vengeance. An unexpected ally. Edgar Thornwood moved inland, the dark forest closing in around him as he made his way toward the ruins of the forgotten temple of Necross. His skeletal frame, carved in decaying and regenerating tissue, was flanked by his monstrous creations, ready to defend their master at a moment's notice. As they approached a clearing, Edgar noticed a strange figure sitting on a rock. The aura emanating from the figure was unmistakably vampiric, yet there was something else, something far more powerful. Edgar raised his hand, signaling his creatures to prepare for an attack. The approach was tense, each step filled with the anticipation of violence. As they neared, the figure spoke. "Hello, Edgar. No need for a fight. I am a friend. I am here to aid you in your battle against Necross. You see, My father would love for you to destroy him, if that's even possible." Edgar's voice was cold and distrustful. "I do not make deals with your kind. I destroy them." The strange man chuckled softly. Come, Edgar. Surely you can see I am far beyond any elder you have encountered. Yes, I have their traits, but look beyond that. I am a friend. I detest Necross as much, if not more than you." Edgar's eyes narrowed. "Who are you, and how can you help me?" "My name is Thorn, Dr. Thorn," the man replied with a sly smile. "You see, we even share something in our last name. Now surely this is not just coincidence." Edgar began to lower his guard, intrigued but still cautious. "What is it you want, Dr. Thorn?" Dr. Thorn stood up from the rock, his movements graceful and deliberate. "My father, whom I also hate, would truly love for Necross to fall. And while I would like nothing more than my own father to fall, I feel with Necross out of the game, the balance would be off, and I could finally challenge my father for dominance. But that really has nothing to do with you. Let me show you how I can help you." Dr. Thorn continued. "You cannot simply open the door to Necross's land. This isn't some comic book. You'll need a key." Edgar's curiosity was piqued. What sort of key? Dr. Thorn smiled, holding up a strange bone structure. "This key, it's a piece of Necross himself, thought lost many years ago in the great battle of the gods." Edgar's eyes widened with interest. "Then how did you get it? Are you a god?" Dr. Thorn laughed. "Who, me? No, I am just misunderstood." Edgar's skepticism returned. "So what am I going to have to do to get this key?" Dr. Thorn's smile widened. "Nothing. Here, it is yours, a gift from me. I cannot aid you once you enter his domain, so I wish you well, Edgar. I do hope to see you again, but I honestly don't hold much hope for you. Necross is powerful, too powerful, but if you can weaken him in some way, it will be truly appreciated." Edgar took the key, the strange bone structure cold and ancient in his hand. He studied Dr. Thorn for a moment, searching for any signs of deceit, but found none. This unexpected ally had given him the means to confront Necross, and while Edgar knew the dangers that lay ahead, his resolve was unshaken. "Thank you," Edgar said, his voice a mix of gratitude and determination. "I will do what must be done." Dr. Thorn nodded, stepping back into the shadows. "Good luck, Edgar Thornwood. May your vengeance be swift and your strength unyielding." With the key in his possession, Edgar turned back to the path leading deeper into the island. His mind was set, and his purpose clear. The confrontation with Necross was inevitable, and Edgar was ready to face the Dark God with all the power he had amassed. As he stepped forward, his monstrous creations followed, and the island seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of the battle to come. The gateway to Necross. After some time of travelling, Edgar Thornwood finally arrived at the site, a desolate expanse of old ruins and crumbling structures that looked more like a tomb and grave than a temple. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of decay, and the silence was only broken by the occasional whisper of the wind. Edgar wandered through the ruins, searching for an entrance or a place to use the key. But there was nothing but rubble and ruin, no doorways or discernible structures, just the remnants of a once great edifice now lost to time. Frustration began to gnaw at him as he meticulously examined the strange key once more, feeling the powerful aura emanating from it. Determined, Edgar placed the key on an old stone and began to channel his necromantic power into it. He sent his own life energy into the strange key, feeling it respond to his will. It began to glow with an eerie light, and then it grew. the bones stretching and twisting, creating a strange and ominous doorway. As the doorway took shape, Edgar realized why Dr. Thorn had not used it himself. Only a necromancer could reanimate it, using the essence of life and death to activate its hidden power. The doorway now stood before Edgar, a swirling vortex of death and decay, leading directly into Necross's domain. Edgar knew this journey was one from which he would not return. He took a moment to look around, his eyes tracing the outlines of the ruins, the dark sky above, and the world he was about to leave behind. He thought of Lily, the love he had lost and the driving force behind his quest. Raising his voice to the stars, he whispered, "For you, Lily." With resolve, Edgar stepped forward into the swirling vortex, his monstrous creations following obediently. The vortex pulsed with dark energy, engulfing them in its deadly embrace. As Edgar crossed the threshold, the world behind him faded into oblivion, and the cold, oppressive atmosphere of Necross's domain consumed him. The sea of death. Stepping into the realm of Necross, Edgar Thornwood was confronted by a desolate landscape. Before him stood a colossal structure made entirely of bone, its grotesque architecture towering ominously against the dark, empty sky. The land around him was a wasteland of death and decay, devoid of life, stretching into infinity. Edgar moved toward the strange bone structure, each step echoing in the eerie silence. As he neared, the ground beneath him began to tremble. From the earth rose the undead, hundreds, then thousands, creating a sea of death that surged toward him. The air was filled with the stench of rot and the sound of clattering bones. "Attack!" Edgar commanded his monstrous creations, and they charged into the mass of undead with fierce determination. Though formidable, they were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. The sea of death and decay swallowed them, their forms disappearing beneath the relentless tide of skeletal and decayed bodies. Edgar stood alone, the wall of death moving inexorably towards him. He raised his hand and spoke with authority. "You are undead. You will do the bidding of Edgar Thornwood." Channeling his necromantic power, Edgar began to take control of the undead creatures. The first line of the undead turned and started attacking their kin, and as Edgar's influence spread, more and more fell under his command. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The undead parted, creating a walkway towards the bone structure. Edgar moved quickly, his eyes fixed on the entrance ahead. As he reached the massive doors, he glanced back at the unfathomable sight. Undead creatures stretching as far as the eye could see, with a front line under his control, holding back the wave of death. With a final push, Edgar stepped through the entrance and shut the heavy bone doors behind him. The sound of the door closing echoed through the structure, a brief respite from the horrors outside. He had passed the first challenge, but he knew the worst was yet to come. As he stood in the dim light of the bone structure, Edgar contemplated the trials that lay ahead. The path to Necross would be fraught with danger, and he could not afford to underestimate the Dark God's power. His resolve hardened. Edgar prepared himself for whatever awaited him in the depths of Necross's domain, the Hall of Reflections. As Edgar moved through the strange corridors, made of bone and decaying flesh, the air grew colder and more oppressive. Each step echoed through the labyrinthine passages, the sound mingling with the whispers of the dead. Up ahead, a familiar figure appeared, the messenger from the old house. The messenger spoke. "Edgar, stop. Go no further. I do not know how you have entered the realm of our Lord, but you must not confront him. You are but a man. You must stop this insanity and give in to the power of our Lord Necross." Edgar replied, his voice unwavering. "Your Lord, not mine. I am no longer Edgar Thornwood. He died many months ago. Now I am neither dead nor alive. I walk between death and constant rebirth. I cannot die, and I will lock Necross in an eternal battle until his strength fades, as mine will not." The messenger's voice trembled with urgency. "Necross is not simply a being you can do battle with. He is the embodiment of living death. He will smite you with but a thought, Edgar." Edgar stepped forward, his gaze steely. "He will try. Now out of my way. I hunger for battle." Edgar moved past the messenger, leaving him confused and conflicted. As he ventured deeper into the structure, the air grew thicker with the scent of decay. He entered a large chamber, its walls adorned with ancient runes and bones. Standing in the shadows were two figures, their presence both familiar and unsettling. He approached, ready for battle, but stopped in his tracks when he recognized them. The first figure was himself, a man before the transformation. The second figure was the necromancer, Edgar Thornwood, a twisted reflection of what he had become. The man Edgar spoke first, his voice filled with sorrow. "Edgar, stop what you are doing. This is not who we are. We were kind and caring. We had a wonderful life. It's time to end it all and join Lily in death." The necromancer Edgar then spoke, his voice dripping with malice. "Necross gave you your power. How do you plan to defeat him? You are but an insect to him. Stop this madness. You have no chance. You cannot win." Edgar, in his current form, clenched his fists and spoke with fierce determination. "Yes, I can give up. I can look forward and see no chance at all for success or victory. I can compare myself to the opponent and feel inferior, weak, and useless in awe of their power. I can look at myself with no chance, no hope, and do what I have done my whole life. Put others before me, think others are better, stronger, think I have been given the short straw somehow, and should leave the tough fight for others who are more worthy than me. I could, but I will not." He took a step forward, his voice rising. "I have lived that life. Today I am reborn, and even if I fail, I will so enjoy the fact that I had the guts to make a stand against the impossible. Now get out of my way." With that, the two figures dissolved into dust, their voices fading into the darkness. Edgar moved forward, his resolve unshaken, his eyes set on the path ahead. He could feel the presence of Necross growing stronger, the air heavy with the weight of the dark god's power. Edgar knew the final confrontation was near, and he steeled himself for the battle that would determine not only his fate, but the balance of power in the realm of the undead. The final threshold. Edgar could feel himself drawing closer to Necross. The air grew heavier with every step, charged with an overwhelming energy that seemed to pulse from up ahead. The power of the dark god was palpable, a force that made the very bones of the structure tremble. Suddenly, a voice pierced the oppressive silence, a voice that did not belong in this realm. "Uncle, you must stop. You must not face Necross. Necross must exist to sustain the balance." Edgar turned sharply, his eyes widening in recognition. Before him stood Steven Lestat, the son of his sister, but no longer the baby he remembered. The boy was now about 5 years old, his innocent eyes filled with a wisdom and sorrow that belied his age. "Steven," Edgar whispered, his voice a mix of confusion and concern. "What are you doing here?" Steven looked up at him, his small face solemn. "I am forever connected to Necross. You connected me. The day you touched my head, you condemned me to walk with Necross." Edgar's face twisted in anguish. "How? I do not understand." "He said he has big plans for me, and I must follow in your footsteps, uncle," Steven replied, his voice steady. Edgar's anger flared, his eyes blazing with fury. Leave him alone, Necross. He has nothing to do with this. Steven's expression remained calm, almost resigned. Uncle, you must not face Necross. You will die. Edgar's voice softened, filled with a sorrowful determination. I'm already dead, Stephen. Sometimes we have to make a stand, for if not us, then who? Stephen's form began to dissolve into dust, his small hand reaching out as if to touch Edgar one last time. Goodbye, Uncle. As Stephen disappeared, Edgar turned to face what was surely the entrance to Necross's throne room. The massive doors loomed before him, carved from ancient bone and pulsing with a dark energy. He could feel the presence of the dark god just beyond, a force so immense that it seemed to warp reality itself. Edgar steeled himself, his mind focused and his resolve unbreakable. He had come too far to turn back now. The echoes of his loved ones' voices and the weight of his own transformation fueled his determination. He would confront Necross no matter the cost. With a final deep breath, Edgar pushed open the heavy doors and stepped into the unknown. The throne of Necross. As the heavy doors flew open, Edgar stepped into a vast throne room, worthy of Necross, the god of the undead. The room was cavernous, its high ceiling lost in shadows. Massive pillars, carved from ancient bones, supported the structure, and the walls were adorned with intricate, macabre frescoes, depicting scenes of death and resurrection. The floor was a mosaic of blackened tiles, and a cold, eerie light emanated from the walls, casting long, flickering shadows. In the center of the room stood a throne made of twisted bones and skulls, radiating an aura of dark power. Edgar was in awe as he looked around, half expecting a powerful, monstrous figure to descend upon him at any moment. "Hello, Edgar," a calm voice echoed through the chamber. Edgar turned to see a man standing near the throne, nothing strange or out of the ordinary, just a regular, middle-aged man. "Come in," the voice said. "You are welcome here. I am Necross." Edgar was confused. "Then prepare to fight," he demanded, readying himself. "Oh no, we won't have any of that," Necross replied with a gentle smile. "I am proud of you, my son. You have done things no one else has. You even brought me a gift in this new living death, which I do truly appreciate." Edgar's confusion deepened. "What are you talking about?" "You see, Edgar, I am always portrayed as this evil death god," Necross said, transforming before Edgar's eyes. His form grew, his body becoming a skeletal giant wreathed in fire, his height reaching the towering ceiling. Then he reverted back to his unassuming human form. "But I must admit, I grow bored with it. For centuries, I have had to put up with this. Death, as you know, is not a being or a god. It just is. I, on the other hand, could be seen as living death. I conquered death, and my followers survive after death has failed, which makes me more powerful than death itself." Edgar listened, trying to understand. Necross continued, "And herein lies the problem, Edgar. I am all-powerful. I could have stopped you at any time in your journey, but I liked your courage and defiance. Many would have given up in the face of certain defeat, but you thrived in it. You even got that snake of a creature, Thorn, to help you. I can't wait to see what happens when his daddy finds out how he delivered you to me. He's going to be so angry." "But you denied me my Lily," Edgar retorted, "wanting me to serve you for an eternity, forever without her." Necross sighed. "Did you listen to a word I said? I am Necross, god of Undeath, more powerful than death itself. You want Lily?" Necross waved his hand, and Lily appeared in the room, looking confused. Her eyes widened in horror as she saw Edgar's decayed appearance, and she cowered back in disgust. Necross waved his hand again, and Edgar's form shifted back to that of the man he once was. "There," Necross said. Lily ran to Edgar, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you, Edgar," she said, clinging to him. Edgar held her, his mind racing. "Is this real, or some kind of trick?" And Necross spoke with a hint of amusement. "The power of Undeath is the ultimate power. Not even death can defeat us." As Edgar stood there, holding Lily in his arms, he contemplated his next steps. The reality of Necross's power and the implications of his own journey began to sink in. The ultimate power was within his grasp, but at what cost? The future was uncertain, and the choices he made now would determine the fate of his soul and the world of the living and the dead. The Realm of Undeath. As Edgar began to realize that this was indeed Lily, he felt his tense muscles relax. He held her close, the warmth of her presence soothing his tormented soul. Necross watched them with a satisfied smile and spoke. "What other power could do this? I have given you power. I have given you courage. And now I give you back the one thing all others took from you. I did not take her from you. It was those eternal living elders. Oh, how I hate them. And Nocturna, their god. He's the worst." Edgar's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Necross continued. "Do you know what is the most annoying thing for us, for Undeath? It's those who live forever. They skip death, so they skip the chance to be one of us. But you, Edgar, you managed to kill them and use their power to create something completely new. You shall be high in my command when the war of the gods once again resumes. You shall hold an ace in this war." Necross gestured, and two gigantic doors behind him slowly creaked open, revealing a vast and eerie realm. It was the Realm of Undeath, where those saved from death by Necross lived in wait until he needed them. The landscape was a twisted reflection of life, with ghostly trees and shadowy figures moving silently in the distance. "For now, you may live here with us, the undead, until such a time," Necross said. "Go, Edgar and Lily. Live free in my realm. Live happy. One day, we will have need of your gifts." Edgar and Lily walked towards the open doors, hand in hand. As they stepped into the Realm of Undeath, the massive doors began to close behind them. Edgar looked back one last time, seeing Necross standing there, watching them with an inscrutable expression. As the doors shut, Necross transformed from his simple image of a man into his true form, a colossal skeletal god of undeath. He sat on his throne, a sinister smile spreading across his bony face. His eyes glowed with a malevolent light as he called into the void. "Nocturna Lasano, continue to build your forces, for nothing can defeat undeath, and now, with the power of living death, you shall fall." The words echoed through the vast emptiness of the realm, a dark promise of the war to come. Necross's laughter filled the throne room, a chilling sound that seemed to make the very bones of the structure tremble. Edgar and Lily found themselves in a place unlike any they had ever known. It was both beautiful and haunting, a testament to Necross's power. As they began their new life in the Realm of Undeath, Edgar couldn't help but wonder what the future held. He had gained so much and yet lost even more, but for now he had Lily by his side, and that was enough. The legacy of Edgar Thornwood. Edgar's sister mourned the loss of her brother deeply. He had disappeared many months ago, and the townsfolk whispered that he could not bear to live without Lily, and had ended it all. Yet, no body was ever found. In time, Edgar's home and estate were inherited by his sister and her son, Steven Lestat. Years passed, and Steven grew into a curious and adventurous young man. The old house was filled with secrets, and one day, while exploring its many rooms, he stumbled upon a locked door. This door led to the hidden laboratory where Edgar had conducted his dark experiments. Intrigued, Steven managed to unlock the door and slipped inside. The room was filled with ancient tomes, strange apparatuses, and notebooks filled with Edgar's meticulous notes on necromancy and the supernatural. Steven's eyes widened with wonder and fascination as he pored over the writings, trying to make sense of the dark knowledge contained within. He felt a strange connection to his uncle, a pull towards the arcane and the forbidden. Unbeknownst to Steven, he was not alone. In the shadows, a figure watched his every move. Necross, in his human guise, observed the young man with a sinister smile. He had big plans for Steven Lestat. The boy's destiny was intertwined with his own, and the knowledge Edgar had left behind was the key to unlocking Steven's potential. Necross's eyes glowed with anticipation as he whispered to himself, "Yes, young Steven. Explore, learn and grow. Your journey is only beginning, and I have grand designs for you. You will be my instrument, my champion in the war to come." As Steven delved deeper into Edgar's notes, the weight of his uncle's legacy began to settle on his shoulders. The mysteries of necromancy and the battle against the forces of the undead beckoned to him, promising power and knowledge beyond his wildest dreams. Little did he know, his path was being carefully guided by the dark god himself. In the quiet of the old house, Steven Lestat's future was being shaped by the shadows. The end of Edgar Thornwood's tale was only the beginning of another, a story of legacy, dark power, and the eternal struggle between life, death, and the forces that sought to control them both. The end.